It is May 24th, 2026. This Sunday morning, just after 5 a.m. and out here kicking the soccer ball. And also want to do a video, seeing my soccer ball, helping men in relationships, and if men can get better and be better people, in relationships, then it'll help women. And if women can learn something, great. But just because I often go off of my experiences and of my 50 years on this planet, I think that I might be better help for men. But hey, whoever gets the help, great. But I've been doing that by reviewing criminal cases and doing like an after action on some criminal cases, and kind of pointing out behaviors that, when all the holes of the Swiss cheese align, you have some pretty wicked outcomes. And but and this can happen to all of us. Some of us get lucky, I mean myself included, that not all the holes of the Swiss cheese aligned, and maybe I would have done some of the similar things, and but you just get lucky. You go confront somebody, and luckily the guy wasn't home, or I'm just saying, and that's kind of like this case, right? But the case we're going to cover today is the Meredith Haney case, Davis McClendon case. I mean, that's who's involved, and the Bud Ackerman case, right? And those are your players. And so what you basically have is kind of a love triangle. This happens in South Carolina, and I will say, one of the things that it's kind of most indicative of relationship success, or sometimes relationship strife, is looks, appearance, right? I really do think that especially many of the grifters, they'll discount looks and appearance, but so they can sell you something, but they'll sell you a text messaging program that you can get a woman in 2 days. I'm just kidding, but I mean, we've all gone through life to know that there's some beautiful people in this world that like men, or if it's a man, women will fawn all over them, and if it's a woman, men will fawn all over them. So we all have seen the impact of appearance, right? So it's like we can't ignore the obvious, or someone tell you what I'm trying to say is like, someone might go, oh, fire's not hot, but like, dude, I've touched it, it's hot. Like, it's not really hot, that's in your mind. Well, I've seen looks work very well. So anyway, I don't want to belabor that point, but one of the reasons I bring it up is because in this case, Meredith Haney, she was Meredith Ackerman. She was married to Bud Ackerman, and his family in South Carolina has, I think it was like an auto car business, auto body shop type thing, and they were well known. They had some money, and they were kind of known in the community. But but she was very pretty. I mean, she looked about, I mean, I'm just gonna estimate like 5'7", long blonde hair, skinny, it's something, there's certain people, you look at her and she just had this look of just pretty. She's very pretty, almost like a girl next door type look, for a South Carolina girl with a Southern accent, and but with a little bit of extra, just a little bit of extra, not the girl next door. But anyway, but she was pretty. I mean, very pretty, and sometimes you notice, and her husband was a whatever, wasn't no jacked, bodybuilder, just a regular dude, right? So, but sometimes you notice with people that are really beautiful or pretty, especially women, right? Their husbands can't get over them. And sometimes it happens because, I've been involved when I was less, or when I didn't have the, the identity that I do now, to where I let, the woman validate me or something like that, I had a relationship like that, and the girl was, I've talked about before, she was beautiful. And that's where I got my confidence. And it was hard for me to end that relationship. But when I did, at the time, it taught me, right? That's what we learn in our wisdom, right? It taught me that, I was placing way too much emphasis on this girl, and your security has to come from yourself, right? So anyway, but so I think maybe that was a little bit what was going on with him, I mean, sometimes, dude, she just got into, but that's a beta. It's a beta behavior, I mean, beta, and again, we use these as placeholders, beta and alpha. I mean, beta usually means there's a weakness, you have some weakness in you, And when we describe alpha, the alpha's you have strength in you, and nobody, this ain't like the alpha wolf, and the alpha wolf, it'll eat something raw, and you don't eat raw things. We're not talking about how we relate to the nature in general, right? Well, we're talking about our placeholders, right? So if I say alpha, you can think, okay, strong guy. If I say beta, you can, okay, weak guy, right? So I don't have to bring up all the categories or whatever, right? But there is no true alpha, because if we were really alphas, we would go, just totally annihilate somebody and not give a damn, and we'd bang these girls and not even care and not even get their name. I'm just saying. I mean, and my point, what I'm trying to say is a true alpha is it would be, you wouldn't even be able to function in society, if you were out like an alpha in nature, right? So anyway, I digress on that, but we have, I believe, in this case, in my opinion, there's two betas, but they're not in, and I bet, but once again, Bud Ackerman is a beta male provider, and one of the things his wife said, Meredith Haney, she was Meredith Ackerman, she says he was a great father, a wonderful father to their 3 kids. And like I say, guys, hypergamy don't care. Hypergamy don't care. Pull up Rollo Tomasi, hypergamy don't care, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Hypergamy don't care how good a father you were. Hypergamy, like, if she finds someone that she thinks is better, that she can do better with, again, don't be scared. Oh my God, my wife's gonna leave me every day. No, but you do have to compete out here. You do. I mean, life ain't easy. And one thing that happens in their marriage is, she even says that his job was becoming stressful, and he started getting depressed, and he started drinking. Now, but I got a lot of people say, oh, death to you part. Get out of the fantasy world. If you start drinking and start maybe getting out of shape and becoming belligerent and not fun to be around, we're human beings, And law of power is appeal to someone's self-interest, not to their gratitude or mercy or whatever, something like that, right? I mean, but yeah, I mean, so what that means, that's in anything, when you're, people are going to go with how they're feeling about something, So if you're going to be an alcoholic, what you're saying is, well, you said death to you part. You're appealing to their gratitude and mercy or whatever. And I'm not sure that's the exact wording of it, but it's basically, don't beg to pay. I helped you before, and because one of the stories they give is about, like, the Greek army comes to, like, it's like there's going to be a war, and one of them needed help, and one of the countries comes to them, and they wanted to help, like, it was like France or something, and they're like, hey, this is what we got, this is what we've done for you, and all the help we gave you. And the other country comes to them, that they're fighting each other, and they come to France, and they're like, okay, here's what we'll do for you. And France looked beyond what the other country kept talking about, what they have done for them. But France went with the country that actually could do something for them now. Okay, and that showed appeal to people's self-interest, not to their mercy or gratitude. So the same thing in marriage, right? What are you going to try to lay back on your vows? Well, you said, and that's what I hear a lot of beta males. The ones that say 304s, sick have my stuff, 304s. Well, you said I do. That's a lazy weakness, because they're not going to do that, nor should they, nor do you do that probably, I mean, if you're drinking Coca-Cola, and it starts tasting like crap, you're not going to, Coca-Cola will be like, bro, come on, man, like, we were there with you as a kid. We made your birthday party so cool. You're like, nah, man, you just taste like crap. I'm not going Coca-Cola, whatever. I'm just saying. But I digress. But so, Bud Ackerman, like I said, she said he was a good father. She's beautiful. They have 3 kids. And one thing you'll notice with pretty people, like looks do matter, is that a lot of times, especially men, they're going to try to lock you down with them kids. They want to put some babies in you, And once again, guys, that's not going to, hypergamy don't care, the only thing that keeps a woman is how she feels about you, if you give her the alpha bang, tingles, right? So, so if you don't give her that, she don't care that, you made the best birthday party ever, and you made the best piñata ever. They don't care. They'll give you a handshake, or they'll tell their friend about it. He did so good on that, and then they'll be like, Roger, he's so hot, he was gonna bang me. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, and Bud Ackerman had money because his family had money, and his dad gave him a job at this place. But like I said, she said he started becoming an alcoholic, and that's kind of when things started falling apart in their marriage, right? Because he just wasn't as cool to be around, right? And so guys, that's a lesson to us all, Men, when you're going through something, reach out to a buddy, a guy, and work through it. Don't reach out to your wife. If you're struggling, either A, you figure the damn thing out. B, reach out to a buddy and figure it out. C, go to therapy, whatever, but you figure it out. I mean, the thing is women will give you a pass or whatever if you're figuring shit out. If you're not, and you're just language, and let me tell you, alcohol is no way to solve shit, guys. No way to solve shit. And I'll say this even more. If you're drinking too much, whatever, that's fine, whatever. But there are medications. I'm not saying, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just saying, I know these things as a wise man. To go to a qualified psychiatrist. And there are some medications. Maybe a lot of times people self-medicate. They're anxious. There's medications out there that you can, that'll bring down your anxiety, but not give you all the side effects that alcohol does. Also, breathing exercises, Wim Hof exercise, box breathing, stuff like that. If you're anxious, right? But anyway, and exercise is great for depression. If you're feeling depressed, do a fitness program. Find a challenge. I know it's hard, but do a fitness program, or join a charity helping people. Okay, but I digress on that. But that's what's happening to Bud Ackerman. That's what we can learn in these stories, right? And I think that ruined his marriage because his wife said he was a good dude. Again, but we go back to they don't care how good a father you are. Now that helps, but not. There's air, water, food, sex, right? Sex is a need, and there is no morality in sex. Your wife will not care, or your woman will not care if you're the, leader of the chambers of commerce, and, you get straight A's, and, on your test, and, you got a smiley face when you were in 5th grade and had a 100, and whatever. I'm just saying, your accomplishments or whatever, the way that she feels sexually about you, the way she feels you sexually, that's what matters with women, and how secure you make her feel. What kind of leader are you, right? Anyway, so we'll move on. But so anyway, they separate, right? And what I've said before in these relationships is a lot of times we don't know still. I mean, we only know what she gave to the media, but a lot of times these women, she was still, as they're separating, they're going through the divorce process, she was still hanging out with Bud Ackerman, the husband, and they were, going to stuff together, with the kids. It was for the kids. They were going to church together, But a lot of times your beta males, or beta male providers, they're going to do stuff like that. And a beta male's going to shapeshift. And he's going to say, okay, I'll do the church thing. And, yeah, that's a good idea. And, but what he's doing is he's trying to, stay around you, And, so, it's just one of those things where, he's trying to, stay in your life. You know what I mean? And he's lying about, oh yeah, no, I can take this. And by the way, so anyway, and so that's what Bud Ackerman was doing. And these women don't know how. A lot of times when you get with a woman, she's not, the level of, yeah, we're broke up. She's gonna tell you that, but how well is she handling that breakup? And are they really broke up? And in this case, she started dating a guy named Davis McClendon, and, she's beautiful. And then again, once again, I'll tout my, looks do matter. It's amazing that this beautiful woman found another guy so quick. Understand that she can, and I think that, and especially in this case or whatever, I think Davis McClendon, basically, I'm not putting any shade on him but I do think he was batting outside his league. I mean, she was hot, and he was, I think, yeah, he was definitely punching above his weight class, which is good, it's fine, But a lot of times guys that they get the pretty lady, maybe prettier than they can get, that goes, that makes them go a little bit loony. It makes maybe all of us, right? But anyway, I mean, yeah. And so, and what they were doing is, and I'm telling you this, another thing that you watch out for is, so, you can't control a woman. And this Bud Ackerman, her ex-husband, she did not like the fact that she was dating somebody else, right? And so, but, and you got to wonder how well is she explaining that to, Davis, the new guy, right? And, and here's something you think about, right? And you can't think like a beta male, think with scarcity. Yes, she's pretty, but, an alpha, somebody that, can think and be strong is, this ain't worth it, I mean, ex-lovers that ain't over stuff, and this is when I was in high school, the girl I lost my virginity to, whatever, she was hot, dude, but this high school, and she told me about this guy, like they were just broke up, he's having a hard time getting over her, and I'm like, I don't care at that point, I'm like, I got my girl, one day we're at her house, and, we're kind of getting it on after school, and homeboy, he comes to the door, and she goes to the door, I'm not thinking anything of it, and this dude comes busting in the door. She tried to stop him, and this dude was small at the time, but he was 21, I was 17, so, they got that, they got that, a little bit size factor on me, and, dude, I didn't know what was happening either, the surprise factor, and he throws her out of the way, and he comes rushing in. I'm like deer in headlights, I didn't know like how bad their thing was. It happened to me personally. And if he would have had a knife or a gun, I would be dead. He grabs me up by the shirt collar. Like I said, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. This happens like boom, 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 and he's basically picked me up, and I'm in the air, and he's like got me by my collar, right into the wall, bam, and he's like, motherfucker, don't get around my girl, boy, and he's in my face, and I'm just like, I'm stuck. All I can do is like, I fuck him, and I'm like, whatever, and I was so mad, and I'll tell you, I went to my car, and luckily she was thinking, and I had a piece in there, and I was grabbing it out, and she's like, no, go. See, dumb things we do, and luckily I made the right choice. I'm like, because I felt, I felt like, he bruised my ego, but again, all the holes in the Swiss cheese line, I could have, but that happened to me, So, you got to watch out. These people's exes, they have an ex, and they're saying, dude, you protect yourself. Move on, I would say, and a girl might respect, she's into you. Hey, get all that stuff taken care of. Get back with me in like a year. It's hard, but you got to make that call, But one thing you don't do is what Davis did, and here's the thing that was happening. You can monitor things. How much he's calling her, how much he's, you just watch the pattern. We know patterns. And this guy was calling her. And the night that Davis gets killed, he's looking for her. He went by Davis's house. He went by her house. He went by the bar they were at. Luckily, they were gone. But he called like several times. She rejected the calls. Now is your girl telling you that? This stuff's going on. Who knows? You're in danger. We all know as guys, we got to level with ourselves. When if you're not going to level with yourself and be honest, like, dude, if your girl's, seeing another guy and you ain't over her yet, that's so hard. I haven't, I've never, you want to maybe, but dude, it's hard, so you know the feelings you've had, and then, you're probably a good guy with moral compass and integrity. Well, there's people out there that don't have your kind of moral compass, and they're a little more, they got trauma issues when they were a kid. Someone stole their toy in second grade, and they're still not over it. And, now you're stealing their girl. And so, it's like, I remember it, and they go nuts, right? So, but it's a big thing. That's why when you that's why don't date married women, don't date girls that are just out of relationship. Because, those ones are easy. And a lot of times that's a beta male move, because those women can be manipulated and stuff. And, they just looking for, someone, they're looking for, someone to make them feel good, And a lot of beta males, guilty as charged. I'm not better than anybody. I can talk about this stuff because I've lived this stuff. But anyway, so, but yeah. And so, but what I also say is you can't control anybody. Bud Ackerman is going around trying to find her and, track her down. And she's still having a relationship. Women are crafty. You're never going to be able to control them, and when you try to follow them and when you try to track her phone and all, dude, all you're doing is number one, disgusting her, and number two, you're putting her, if she figures that out, you're putting her as a higher status person, and she's going to get disgusted, because, famous people and people that matter are followed. People doing the following don't matter as much. You're going to be like the loser paparazzi guy, Anyway, and, so, and in addition to that, it's like, it's not healthy for you. You should be on a mission doing something else, and you can't control them, and you're just going to make her better at hiding. And which is what happened. They asked her, your husband didn't like you, or separated. He didn't like you, seeing Davis, right? And she's like, no, he didn't. And she's like, so did you stop? And she's like, no, we just went out of town. We dated out of town, basically. And he found out about that. But the thing is, but he didn't for a while. My point is women know how to. You can think I told her not to until he said, don't mess with him until the divorce is over. So what they started doing, going out of town, So it's like a woman's going to just be better at hiding stuff, So you can't control anybody, If someone, and this goes to relationships in general, if someone's not doing stuff because they want to, then the leverage has to be you and your time. Right? So if they're not doing something you want to, they got to know you're pulling back your time and attention. And that someone has to like you. That's why I say alpha bang, because someone has to like your time and attention enough to go, oh shit. And with men, it's great because, women really love our presence when you're the alpha bang. They love your presence. They love your smell. They love who you are. They love to just gaze. I told you about yesterday. They'll gaze and look at you with this weird gaze. And I say that in most respect to women. And it's almost a weird, and sometimes you look out of the corner of your eye and you're like, God, stop. And but it's cool. But it also makes you smile inside, right? So anyway, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, so I hope you get to experience that someday. It's pretty cool. But anyway, only deal with a woman that sees you like that, But anyway, so, so what happens is Davis and Meredith had been going through this, right? And so they're done with it. Like, they're just tired of it. So, but Davis does the wrong thing, the beta male thing. He's like, I'll protect you. And he wants to go talk to this guy. Now, I think he probably had been drinking. I don't know, but so they decide to meet on this dark road, in South Carolina somewhere. And it's like, no, you don't go talk to her ex. You don't deal with someone else's ex. You don't talk about him. She doesn't talk about him around you. It is off the table. I'm an alpha male. Don't want to talk about no other, wieners, no other D's in this area. No. No other male matters but me. So if you're having problems with your man, and your man is a loser, that's not my problem. And you cut it quick. I'm not here to talk about him, And I've done that before with women I've dated. And dude, they know right away who they're talking to. Because most guys will sit there and listen and want, oh really, that's rude, that's wrong. Because they want you to validate their crap, but they'll see it as a beta. If you tell, dude, I had some ladies on the dating app, they know that they're trying to get attention and waste your time. And some of them try to get therapy on the dating app by talking crap about their husbands and stuff. I remember this one lady was doing that one morning. I'm like, you really been talking a lot about this guy. Like, you just cut that crap. Let's talk about something. She hung up on me. Dude, that would happen all the time. So too many beta males have listened to their stupid stories. I ain't here to listen to your stupid story. If you you can tell me about it while my D's in your mouth, you can talk about that story. But otherwise, no. And I'll try to understand it the best I can. But it's true though, I gotta sit here and listen to this. Well, you can have a D in your mouth. I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. So Davis McClendon decides to go meet this guy, and so that's not a good idea. Number one, it ends your problem, and number two, you don't know everything that's going on between them. You don't know what agreement she's had with this guy. You don't know if she's been banging him or behind your back, and and that's why he's really mad. And you just don't know, So, you don't know what kind of relationships they've had. Maybe if you were to go talk to this guy later on, 80 years later, and go, hey, what was really the deal over there? Oh, yeah, no, dude, she was screwing me, and then going to do you, and then having sex with me, and then here's some notes I have, and she, telling me how much she loves me, but to you, she's going to tell you something different. So, but it doesn't even matter because that ain't your business. Bottom line, it ain't your business. So you got to get that in your head. Alpha males don't worry about another man's business. So, and we learn from the story because we're always seeking knowledge. And that's why I tell these stories, because Davis McClendon, who she's dating now, and I'm telling you, this girl's fine, dude, but, and he could have still been banging her, but, he cut his life short because he wanted to go meet this guy. So he goes to this dark road, and Bud Ackerman drives a Ford F-250. The other guy drove a BMW 5 Series. And he's parked on the road. He's standing outside like his driver's door. And, it wasn't going to be a good meeting. I mean, I'm sure it was kind of contentious on the phone. He'd already called like 10 times that night. And so, this guy was going to give him a piece of his mind, Well, as it's a 2-lane road, dark road. And as Bud Ackerman's coming down his Ford F-250, he just hits him straight like, boom, in front of his grill hits the dude. And the guy just basically like, belly fly, basically pancakes him on the fucking grill. And he's carrying him. And he drives with them on the grill for a couple like 100 feet, and then the guy falls into the bushes and dies. And then his girlfriend and Bud Ackerman's wife apparently is going over there, and they find him and he's dead. I mean, that's for what? And you're getting into another man. You think it's gonna go well? I mean, dude, I know myself. If I saw someone else banging my girl, that is banging my girl, I still want her. Dude, that conversation's not going to go well with anybody, with any man. You don't get them, dude. Until that man has released ownership, in his mind, in his heart of that girl, you're going to deal with a huge problem. So I say this as a public service announcement to all my dudes is, do not confront another guy for your girl. I mean, that is so beta. And a girl's gonna know you're beta, because the girls know in their hearts and their minds, they know what an alpha does. Girls know the characteristics of an alpha. If you ever do beta stuff, a girl knows before you know. They do. They go, oh, he's gonna confront that dude, that's beta. They know right away. They know because girls are hardwired to feel an alpha, and that's why they say the ick. The ick is beta behavior. Ooh, it's cold out here. Ooh, I need a jacket. Beta. I mean, whatever. But anyway, I can't swim. Ooh, beta. Ooh, a fishy touched me, a beta. I'm just kidding. But anyway, so, but yeah, and so, but Bud Ackerman, when he did it in his F-250, it ended up damaging his oil pan, and so he leaks oil all the way back to his house, which was real close. And a ring camera caught him. Like, he said it was an accident. Oh, I didn't see the guy, and I tried to swerve. And unfortunately, a ring camera caught him, because ring cameras are everywhere now. They're like the best security. They're like the best security guard / police officer in the world. They're putting more people doing life sentences. That should be a commercial. More people are doing life sentences for ring cams than ever in history, or something like that. And then it'd be like, by ring cam. Anyway, life sentence. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, but yeah, so Bud Ackerman, he had been drinking too that night. Once again, alcohol. If he had not been drinking that night, he would have been. So again, guys, get off that alcohol. And I say, best practices: to not be a beta male and to succeed in dating. I'm gonna go over that real quick, and I'm about to end. But guys, get jacked. Get jacked. If you're over 30, get with your doctor. TRT, and maybe some other stuff, I recommend whatever, whatever, I'm talking about, Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, but just get jacked. You, in this environment of dating, you got to be in the best damn jacked shape of your life, because why are you going to play the game in a hard mode? A woman's, that's going to solve a lot of problems. Now, it doesn't solve everything. You want all your buckets, money, looks, status. You want all those as full as possible, but the one you want the most is looks, right? And the jack, but that's not just. You're not doing anything. Nothing is performative. Nothing is a gimmick. The fact that you're getting jacked as can be, it's. You need to pay attention to your vitamins. You need to pay attention to your water. You need to pay attention to how much sunlight you're getting. You need to pay attention to how much recovery you're getting. That's best practices in life, right? But you also need to be a good, your ego needs to be good inside the gym and outside the gym, right? You gotta have a mindset of I got my identity. I'm an assertive, ambitious, confident, courageous, skilled, honored by other men kind of guy. And so it's not just a gym. Because there's some guys that are gonna argue, well, you just you're a gym bro, and you only feel. And some guys are like that. They only feel good when they're in the gym, and when they come out of the gym, they feel like a loser. No. You need to be good inside the gym and outside the gym. So go do social things. This new dating environment, dating apps are over. If you want to do a dating app, that needs to be way in the background. But dating apps are over. That's why the jack lifestyle. It's like you're gonna do more. The only way you're gonna be able to get a good woman now is but it's in person. Develop a social habit. I don't know. You got to figure out what that's gonna be. But everything has to be in person. Dating apps are dead. If you want to have a mental health crisis, stay on the dating apps, because the only ones there are loser women, punching above their weight, and and just it's like they're doom scrolling, and it's like sport now. As much they want, and I hate to say this because I sound like a 304, but dude. It's like sport now. It's how much crap they can talk about dudes, or talk to a dude, because they got all the leverage. And it's like, they get this little dopamine hit by talking crap to dudes, So anyway, don't be on those things. Do not, go. And it is going to be harder, but nothing good in life has come easy. And we made things too easy for women on dating apps by us being there, and by trying something that was too easy, anyway. But, so anyway, Bud Ackerman went on trial, he was convicted of murder of Davis McClendon, and now, Meredith's going to go on and, find another man, and that's why, beta stuff, what I always say is Davis was going to say, get rid of my girl, even both of them in this love triangle. You both wanted your girl, which is stupid. There's plenty of hot girls out there. Why are you arguing over this one? And you're just gassing her up, But, so yeah, Bud Ackerman got 45 years. He's lost his girl. He's trying to keep her, And so he attracted what he feared. And Davis McClendon attracted death, And we all feared death. But he lost his girl. Now there's some other guys going to be going and banging his. You didn't solve anything. You don't go talk to another guy on a dark road, So, so what do we learn? Don't be a beta. Don't fight other women's stuff. Don't date a woman that's not over her dust, her stuff, another guy. Don't do beta behavior. That's all the weak behaviors, There's always have an abundance mindset. You got to get there. If you're sitting there going, doing stupid stuff like dating a married woman or want something like this where she's not over something, be able to, be honest with yourself. Because the beta, kill that beta before the beta kills you, and Davis, when he was going to fight for that girl, and come meet me, bro, he didn't kill the beta in him, and the beta killed him. That means the beta that couldn't get over her, kill the beta in you. Don't go fighting for that girl before the beta, Bud Ackerman, killed him. I mean, that's a perfect example, perfect example, guys. Get beta out of your life. Be strong. Be strong-minded. Don't think in scarcity. There are more women in the world than just the one this one you're dealing with. So many guys think in scarcity. Don't steal your buddy. Like the other day we saw. Don't try to steal your buddy's girl. I mean, and in the end, it will make it harder to get girls, because girls don't respect that. And your reputation probably, it could, someone, oh yeah, he dates other guys' girls, just not good. And I'm not a saint. I've done all these things. That's why I'm out here telling you guys, being a wise person, but that's all I got today, guys. Like I said yesterday, Sarah Harris strived to get knowledge. She was a victim of a beta male, but she said strive for knowledge, and let's strive for knowledge and make each other better. Go find a girl out there. There's plenty of them, and we'll see you on the next one.